This is Diaspora TV.
Yo TV channels app kateli big and better. Anti app nyamwemu otuke musiyo kunyumirwa. Selecting Yo TV channels or streaming a live radio net TV. Ubachibanda Express katandike butandisi ngabo nyumirwe bina Uganda. Ate kubolingo extra supporting a music wa Uganda ne comedy. Tukanga kumuto abana kunyumirwa.
It's truly a pleasure to be here for this Uganda Canada convention. And I am particularly delighted because it happens actually to be the Canada Day weekend. So we are able to combine two amazing things, literally into one. And I've seen that so many have actually come to the convention with their children from different parts of the country. And I think that's really wonderful because the best way to actually have assurance of the future is to engage the next generation as well. So to be able to come like this, I believe it's truly an excellent, consideration. I basically, I'm here as a part of Silver Trust Media. It's really the principal media organization that runs our print, broadcasting, and digital media sort of assets. And our TV channel, as you can see in the publication, is called Afro Global Television. Right now, it's actually on Rogers Cable, Bell, Telus, Eastlink, and some other platforms across the country on 24-hour basis. So it actually requires subscription, just $5, which is really excellent because if you want to watch African movies, music, all kinds of content, on 24-hour basis, you can actually, be able to access it on the Afro Global Television channel. But then we also have programming on other networks. Omni Television, for example, has a show known as Planet Africa. We've been actually running that for a fairly long time. And that program on cable is just channel 4, accessible pretty much everywhere. We also are involved with a ministry organization called Destiny Harvest. So through that, we actually support, ministries or faith-based organizations that want to actually have a breakthrough and presence on television. So we've been assisting in that regard, quite extensively. And it's truly a delight, actually, to be a part of this event. And like Ronnie said, we've really done everything possible to make sure that the publication that you may be holding at the moment is actually made available here. And then also available at the function that will be happening in Toronto. That's a B2B, function that's focused on the tourism aspect of what Uganda is trying to achieve, to make connections and breakthroughs within, in Canada here as well. And like Ronnie said, actually, we were at the event, the Uganda Diaspora Homecoming Function in Kampala in December. It was absolutely lovely. And now, of course, this time around, we have the convention in Ottawa, and then the special function happening in Toronto. I want to take the opportunity to actually thank the High Commission for its contributions and whatever it is that it has been able to do to make this possible. And I've actually liked to call ourselves the Three Musketeers, basically Ronnie Mayanza and Susan Namulindo and myself, having worked so hard actually to do certain things to advance the best of our country, Uganda. And I would like to also recognize the incredible contributions of Jimmy, Sebulimwe as well, for really being there, especially when we decided to organize the fundraising effort to buy oxygen breathing machines, for Uganda during COVID. Really pleased to say that as members of the diaspora, probably the only group actually that was able to buy 36 oxygen breathing machines that we were actually able to ship to Uganda and deliver through Ethiopian Airlines to help, during that time. And that's really the power of what can happen when people come together to try and do something. And my hope is that we'll be able to do so much more as we go forward. The interesting thing is that that whole effort was actually inspired by my sister, who at the time had actually left her position, concluded her tenure at the East African Community, the ESC, as the Deputy Secretary General for the East African Community in Arusha in Tanzania. Unfortunately, she actually got cancer, and last year in August, she passed away. It still really hurts, like something that has just happened, because that's my only sibling, and our parents had actually passed away in the past, so it's really heavy, but see, when you have a brother like Jimmy and Ronnie and Susan, and you have people like this around, there's a sense of encouragement that, there's still a lot more to live for. And the interesting thing is that I had a conversation sometime back with Ronnie, and we were discussing about the fact that, okay, there's a greater level of integration within the ESC. And, so while we need to actually do everything possible to promote Uganda and so on, we need to think about the possibility of expanding that, and, that means there would be more stakeholders and engagement and so on, and impact could actually be more. If the Europeans, however big Germany and the UK, well, not the UK anymore, but Italy and France and so on, if they can actually come together so that they can actually have increase the critical mass, for more impact, why not us, So the idea of doing something at the ASC level is actually really excellent. And I also basically want to say that for everyone, especially those who are based here in Canada, there are just all kinds of opportunities for Black entrepreneurs, and and that means, of course, relationships can be expanded through partnerships with even other entities who are from outside the community and so on. So the prospects are more, and Susan might be able to say one or two things more in terms of chambers of commerce and her work in that area and so on, but it's extremely important that we need to look out for ways to be able to tap, in regards to opportunities that exist. Another thing that I think I'd like to, touch on briefly that I believe is extremely important is that from within the context of promoting, Africa, in the diaspora and in the larger international community, a number of years ago, we launched a project called the Discover Series. And through that, we actually produced a series of publications for Nigeria, for Zambia, for Zimbabwe, and for Kenya as well. And so many people actually, in Uganda said, hey, you are actually from Uganda, and why are you producing all these things from Nigeria, for Kenya, and for some of these places are not doing any actual and so on. So based on the support actually from my sister before she passed, the process actually was initiated, So we'll be doing actually Discover or Envision Uganda sort of initiative. And then essentially also an EAC level sort of publication as well that will be produced. And the goal is actually to make sure that it's available at the multilateral organizations like the World Bank, IMF, International, Finance Corporation, and places like that, where it's very difficult to get any good quality information about what Uganda has to offer, and things like that. So it will be print, digital, and broadcast, content as well that we'll be doing. So I, mentioned this briefly to Ronnie, whose background is actually, media, an excellent writer and things like that, so that we could actually look at how best we can get this actualized. And I believe it will actually be, done. And finally, I just want to say that in these inclement times when it's very difficult to know what may be possible tomorrow, the most important thing is actually to do your best now and to hope for the best that can come tomorrow. And I just encourage, all of us, especially to have that sense of solidarity and patriotism and commitment, regardless of what our mindsets or environments, how we grew up and so on and so forth. But if we can have the big picture and do the very best possible, I think we'll be able to achieve a lot. So I want to say Happy Canada Day, and let's collectively look forward to a much better future. Thank you so much.
To be a talk show host on television many years ago, what are some of the things that you think have sort of affected us as a community in terms of moving and progressing forward, or what can we do and do differently to be able to impact our societies? Could you just tell us, we are live streaming right now on Diaspora Television, which is a big network across the Ugandan community in North America. So I would like for you to say something along those sides. What can we do differently, especially given the power of networking you've been able to see and what it can do? Can you just comment or say something to that?
Certainly. And I basically want to thank you so much for that point. You see, having lived actually in Canada here for so many years, I actually went to Carleton University here in Ottawa. And yeah, so I got a BA in film studies and then took interest in television, radio. I used to be a DJ actually right here in, in Ottawa with a radio program at, CHUO, that's Radio Ottawa Inc., and then the one actually at Carleton University as well, CKCU, Radio Carleton Inc. as well. And one of the most important things that we've always emphasized is that we need to borrow a leaf, one example from the other communities. I have a number of friends actually in the Jewish community, in the Italian community, the Greek community here in Canada, and I actually see what they're able to achieve. That sense of unity and working together and camaraderie and so on is extremely important. So from a business standpoint, if there are people who have certain kinds of businesses and so on, if we can actually connect and link up with them, we can actually achieve more, So that sense of unity is, I think, the most important thing to consider. The second thing is the fact that understanding what is actually available where you are is key. So for many of us actually in a place such as Canada, there are so many opportunities actually for success in academics, but you need to know what it is that our children can actually take advantage of in order to be able to succeed. And we need to also look at what is actually possible from the viewpoint of things that can be done professionally. So there are so many professional groups and networks and so on, we need to be able to understand that. And lastly, I want to also say that we need to take an example from our Ismaili brothers and sisters. So many people don't know this, but right now, for example, the president and CEO of TD Bank, guess what? He was born in Uganda from the Ismaili community. I think the CFO, Chief Financial Officer for TD Bank, is also from Uganda. And the examples are so many across industries, the printing business and so many others and so on. And from the context of that community, that's in essence a part of our overall community as well, much of it is actually that sense of unity and working together and that sort of thing as well. So I think this will be the most important things, to say in that regard.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Moses Mawa is going to be seated there. Could you, again, is there subscription? Because now that the live stream has started, could you talk to the wider audience as far as how they can subscribe to your channel online? You talked about it. The stream had not started yet.
Okay, so our television channel is Afro Global Television. You can actually get information about it online, afroglobaltelevision.com. We are also on social media. If you go to Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and some of the other platforms, it is actually there. I am actually pleased to also mention that, we subsequently did launch a program called Empower Her, and that was actually with Susan Namlinda. Susan, if you don't mind just coming, for a second. This live stream is apparently on, so yeah. So we launched this program, and primarily because we wanted actually to have a show that would actually have content actually for women. And Empower Her actually had some of the most, celebrated black women in Canada, like the Honorable Dr. Jean Augustine, the first woman member of parliament, actually, female in Canada. And we've had, Paulette Senior, who is actually the president and CEO of the Canadian Women's Foundation. This is actually really the national organization that serves all Canadian women, regardless of their background. But guess what? She's actually a black woman, And Susan actually is the host of the program, and we work together with Mama Watali, her organization, to be able to develop that program and subsequently to launch it. But basically, we are on Rogers Cable, we are on TELUS, we are essentially on Bell Canada across the country as well. And if you're from Atlantic Canada, it's actually on Eastlink, as well. And for those who are at the conference, the publication that you have has information about all of that. Our intention has been to be able to make the channel available actually, in Africa as well, hopefully DSTV and Start Times and Azam and some of the other platforms as well. And and then, of course, to increase our presence online, because there's quite a shift actually to digital media sort of platforms. So we are developing an app so that you can actually access it on your mobile, phones, as well. And one of the main things that we intend to do with the channel is eventually to make sure that we are able to have, specific things, including actually, particularly within the context of Uganda, productions like content that would actually be elevating and presenting opportunities that are available, in that sense as well. So whether it's tourism, investment, the diaspora, and trade, and so many other things, including the showcasing of success stories, we would like to basically do that. So maybe she can add something a little bit just about Empower Her and what it means, within the context of the TV channel.
Thank you, Moses.
It's a turn.
Okay, thank you, Moses. This is, I am kind of been told to come unaware, but Empower Her is essentially telling stories of successful Canadian women, black women especially, in the sense that we see folks and we see where they are, but we do not know that story of where they came from, or how to look at yourself in a sense of where you are and aspire. Because if, like interviewing some of those ladies, like we laughed, we cried, but the underlying key was like most of them started like all of us, like immigrants. Suffered domestic violence, they are sleeping in shelters, and then they pull themselves back up to the top. So that's, the Empower Her is meant to really, as Empower Her, empower is a word that is always misused, but this is to really encourage all of us that regardless of where we are today, we can get to the top of the top. So that was it.
Excellent.
And the only other thing is I can add is that we have it coming back, and I see some potential guests in the room right here that I'm going to talk to about being on that next series of when it comes back up again. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
So thank you so much. And maybe Susan, why don't you, I'll take it over from Susan while she's still here. Ladies and gentlemen, Susan Namlindwa is another friend. I was introduced to Susan by Mr. Moses Mawa when we were doing, during one of those campaigns of trying to get all the COVID support he talked about back to Uganda. through Moses' efforts, like he did talk about, we were able to send 100 oxygen, what were they called again? What, machines, yes, to help with the, there was during the time of COVID, there was that whole time when people were dying because they couldn't breathe. And then when Moses reached out to me, it was like, Ronnie, we have very powerful tools God has given us and networking and all that, what can we do? We needed to fundraise, and we were able to fundraise about 36,000 US dollars, which in turn was able to buy up to 36, was it? Oxygen concentrators? I don't even know how many they were, but we were able to make a difference. And that Moses flew down. I invited Dr. Maggie Kigozi to receive that along with the Minister of Health. The oxygen concentrators were given and distributed to the hospitals that needed that. But long story short, Moses introduced me to Madame Susan Namulindwa. And Susan Namulindwa is the chairperson or the executive director of the Africa Trade Desk, and also founder Mama Watali. I just wanted her to talk about, Susan, we are streaming to a wider audience across social media and in Uganda as well. Talk about what you do, talk about what the Africa Trade Desk does, talk about challenges, how we can support you, and then Mama Watali, what are you guys about, and how would you like whoever is watching now to support you?
Thank you, Ronnie. The beauty about being told to speak when you are not ready is that you speak from the heart. So this is raw and live and unscripted. Africa Trade Desk. Africa Trade Desk, as the name suggests, is that we want to change the lives of our people in Africa through trade. Because a lot of folks that don't know think about Africa and they think about the tourism, which is a great thing. They think about the big five. They think about, especially Uganda, they even after all these years, they still bring back Idi Amin, and that's what they know about Uganda. And they think about which we used to have, which we still have, and this is not to say that we do not need aid, but we need trade more. Because if we trade, if a woman trades, then she has her own dignity and she can use what she trades, the money she makes, to make a difference to her family. So that's what Africa Trade Desk does. We want to show the image of Africa on the basis of trade opportunities. So when Canadian businesses or other businesses come to Africa, if you're coming to trade, you don't say you're coming to help. You're coming to do business. Basically, you have looked at it, and it makes business sense. Therefore, that's what we do. So we connect African businesses and Canadian businesses. We are doing several things in Kenya and in Tanzania. In Uganda, we are working with folks to get dried fruit into Europe. So. That's what Africa Trade Desk does. On the other side, then we do Mama Watali. Mama Watali, works to empower women, especially women that are coming out of domestic violence. It started in Uganda, and we've done in Luwero, where I came from, but now we are working actually in Canada as well. This information will be on mamawatali.org, and we have social media platforms. We deal with housing situations. We are trying to place the women after they are recovering, I call it recovering, out of their whatever issues, trauma, domestic violence, and divorce, and all those things that make life ugly and difficult. But we want to empower them to get back on their feet. And we've been blessed to be supported through several grants through the Canadian Women Foundation, actually. And so that is working very well. We have, through that, we are also doing something called Girls Run Period. And this is to help girls, the girls, especially in Uganda, in Africa, that suffer from period poverty. Period poverty is when you can't go to school because you got your period, because you cannot afford to buy sanitary kits. So we recently had a successful run in the Rift Valley where all things running is born. And I'm proud to say that we have gotten something going where girls can get reusable kits to stay in school. For these kits, one kit lasts a girl 3 years, and that way they can go to school. So we're empowering them to stay in school, and we've gotten support from the marathon runner, or the fastest marathon runner in the world, Kipchoge himself, to go behind this work. So that is ongoing and coming up. And trade-wise, going back to the reason why we're here, and to follow up on what my brother Moses just talked about, there is support for entrepreneurs here in Canada. But we also want to do something regionally in East Africa. So I myself and I am especially interested in the East African integration. Enough that we are setting base. Later we can talk about why the base is being set in Nairobi and not in Uganda, but it's going to draw all of East Africa. Uganda, Tanzania, and yesterday I was actually with folks from the DRC at the DRC 60th anniversary independence, and we're going to draw everybody as a unit, East African community, and have a base in Nairobi, where I hope that, and we'll have a first inaugural investment trade mission convention, including bringing Canadians and East Africans together in Nairobi in October. We'll share those details, and hopefully all of you in Uganda and over here and anywhere this is broadcast will be able to come, because unlike coming to Ottawa or Canada, if we are going to East Africa, we don't need visas. So we should all meet there and celebrate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you've just joined us, I know that the live stream is on. You're at the Uganda Canada Business Expo here at the Westin Ottawa Hotel. My name is Ronnie Mayanja. I'm stepping in to basically try to move our program along. Thank you so much, Susan. Thank you, Moses. And of course, Solange will allow you to, Miss Canada is in our midst. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're joining this live stream, I would want for you to make sure you tell whoever needs to be on this to join in, because later on, Miss Solange is going to be telling us her story, you know, from that whole refugee perspective, how she comes to become Miss Canada. I'm talking about Miss Canada. So that is something that I think will inspire the next generation of the girl child. So, and she's also going to be joining us for the dinner tomorrow. So we encourage as many of you who are in Ottawa to come and be a part of that. As a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, this convention registered a certain high level of success. We had more than 100 plus people get their visas through this event. We are grateful to God for those who came. Some of them are staying here. Some of them, you know, of course, opted for the cheaper option. So it's been great to be able to be a part of that. But like I said, we want to do something more East African. I'm going the direction Susan is going, because in organizing this, we've had people from Tanzania who said, but we are not Ugandan. Would this affect our applications to try and join you wherever you are? So that is where that whole direction we're going to go. We get Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda, and then they're very interested in what we do, and they want to be part of the business component. The next speaker is a friend. He's also someone who is the largest importer of food product, fresh food product from Uganda. I believe, having lived on this side of the pond and the United States and Canada for so long, when you test the bananas from home and the food from home, that shows you that we probably still have organic food. And one person that treated me to that when I came in the last convention, and she offered me some stuff to take home, and I was like, I don't think this is going to go through customs. And then I made that regret, because she gave me what we call in Uganda fresh ndizi. You know, those small bananas that are so sweet, and it had been I wouldn't call it a century or anything, but it was so long that I had experienced that test of that fresh banana produce from Uganda. Susan, why don't you come and tell people about where you are? We are streaming to a much wider audience, how they can get the product that you ship from Uganda, and probably the challenges for the politicians from Uganda who might be watching. What experiences do you have with the airlines, with probably the taxman who taxes you even when you're bringing food for our people? And then whatever ideas you have that can help someone starting out in business. It's off cuff, but I just want you to inspire the next entrepreneur who might be watching and watch your success stories. And maybe if your husbands want to say something later on, he can also do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronnie, my brother. Thank you for giving me this platform. Greetings to all of us. My name is Susan Prema Ageno. I am the CEO of Africa Heaven Limited I have Africa Heaven Limited in Uganda and Africa Heaven Inc. here in Canada. We are basically food exporters in Uganda and food importers here in Canada. What can I say? It's a journey that has its own various challenges, but it's also a beautiful journey to take because you're serving people and you're bringing so much comfort and joy into their lives. When Africa Heaven Limited exports food from Uganda to the Middle East, to Canada, to parts of Europe, we are basically creating opportunities for over 250 farmers. We are employing people locally and providing a source of income for them. So for me, that feels very purposeful and very satisfying because I'm able to create an impact. And on that note, I want to encourage us, East Africans, Ugandans in the diaspora. I believe when the opportunity for us to be out here was permitted by God, it was not just for us to benefit our immediate families or change our statuses and just leave it at that. I believe the assignment is bigger than just us and our immediate families. And I want to encourage us, if we can, for those of us who have even the tiniest bit of, passion or inspiration to do business, while you're in the diaspora, I would encourage you to do business or to trade with our countries of origin. As Ugandans, as East Africans, we are able to touch more lives, to impact more lives if we do take those kind of initiatives. So with the import-export business, we are able to invest back home, train people back home. I travel back to Uganda every 3-4 months. And I was excited when I spoke to one of my sisters here who is in the hotel business, and she was telling me the same thing. She was telling me she travels back home about after every 3-4 months. And this is not in vain. It's hectic, but we are doing something. We are touching lives. We are elevating our people. We are promoting trade between, borders, and I believe that is a very great thing that we are doing. Our tropical food is something that we cannot run away from. Our food is very fresh, mostly organic. The taste, the texture is heavenly. So we cannot say because we have moved to other parts of the world, we stop eating it. Some of the clients who take our food here in Canada actually take it as a comfort food. When they eat our food, when they eat their food from back home, they feel like they've traveled back in time. They feel like they are home again. They feel connected to their people back home. And of course, this food is grown by our own people. The farmers could be a relative of yours, an uncle, an auntie, a cousin, or whatever. So it is a very good investment to be able to work with our people back home. Other than just sending them handouts, I think we can still be able to do so much more, putting them to work, creating the markets for them, and making sure that whatever we do as East Africa grows, and it puts us somewhere on the map. When I interact with our brothers from West Africa, South Africa, they seem to be more organized than East Africa. So it is my prayer that those of us who are in places where we can impact and inspire, let's try and do something, a little bit, a little push, a little something. At the end of the day, it can be able to do something for East Africa. We can be able to raise our East African flag so high. And I'm very privileged because my clients are all East African, from the Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda. So it even gives me the opportunity to be able to at least pick something from each East African country. And just like Mrs. Susan Namulindwa said, it would be very, very beautiful when we get to that point where East Africa can now speak as one voice, and we can trade and support all these initiatives that we are trying to do. Since I'm live on Uganda television, I just want to say that to the government of Uganda, it would also be great if we can get the right kind of support. Just like foreign investors go into Uganda and they are given all these privileges and opportunities and the tax exemption to nurture us. Because we come to invest in Uganda with the heart for Uganda, with the desire to lay a foundation for our people and also leave a legacy. So where the different government stakeholders can be able to support us, it would be really, really very beneficial. It would be also a way of encouraging other people. Yesterday, at one of my sisters said she does hotel business in Uganda, and she was testifying about the Uganda Hotel Association and how she has been helped. This is the kind of support that we need, that if we are able to put businesses back home, to invest back home, which I believe as East Africans, as Ugandans, we are capable, we are able to do. Investment back home is not limited to foreign, to non-Africans or foreign, investors. We can also do it. But we also want the same privileges as the privileges that are given to these other investors. We want the same privileges even when we come with our small investments, because the goal at the end of the day is for me to grow this small investment into something much bigger. The discrimination where small business people are kind of ignored and pushed aside will not benefit us. As East Africa, as Ugandans, yes, we may start small, but we are starting with a passion. We are starting with a purpose, because we know we want to touch the lives of our people. We don't want to give them the fish. We want to give them hooks. We want to train our people to be able to do business across borders, to be able to find purpose in what they are doing. Agriculture should not be looked at as a poor man's job, as a punishment. So when some of us are trying to create the markets out here in the diaspora, and our people are willing to grow the food, to adapt to the standards that we are training them in terms of our international market standards, I believe investors like us should be given support, should be protected, should be, the doors should be opened for us. Government should really stand with us in terms of taxation, in terms of rates, export rates, the discriminatory airline rates. We need all these things streamlined so that we can be able to do so much for the East African community and for our people who are partnering with us in terms of trade, investment, and all these things. There's always so much to say, but I want to end with that, and I want to say thank you very much again, Mr. Ronnie, and thank you all for listening. God bless you.
Because Ms. Solange will be speaking tomorrow, and also because she might have another engagement, I don't want to keep her towards the end of the program. Again, if you're just joining us, this is the Uganda Canada Business Expo taking place here in Ottawa, Canada, at the Westin Hotel. I wanted to invite Madame Solange, just come. I know you're going to be speaking tomorrow, but for the element of business and the story of your life. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Solange is the current Miss Canada. She comes all the way from from Burundi. She's made great. When I came here, actually, let me have probably hear this. I was invited by a friend called Debbie. Debbie was the country, Debbie from Kenya. She was the country manager, I believe, for World Remit, the marketing manager for World Remit in Canada. And then she invited me for an event, and at that event I met Solange, and she had pulled off a very powerful event. The event was at the Parliament of Canada, and the room was filled with the who is who in Canada, as well as the MPs, that were present that day. It was a Black Women Empowerment Month, and that day I purposed to be a friend of Solange, and of course Debbie introduced me to her, and of course, as they say, the rest is history. She will be speaking at our dinner tomorrow. I encourage those who can to come at the Westin Hotel. The time will be 7. But because she told me she would come to support our business breakfast with her family, and because it's Canada Day and they're going to be at the Canada Day festivities, I just wanted her to come and tell us something. Just because we have a global audience, and tomorrow that this is live on Uganda TV, could you just come greet people and then tell them the story of your life as one having come from Africa as a refugee, and then how that has been able to change your life, and also how you've been able to change others through your Inspire, whatever that dream name is. Please come through. Ladies and gentlemen, Solange, Miss Canada, please say something.
Well, now we know how you become successful, right? He meets people and then he said, I must be their friend. So now I'm seeing how this works. I think we should all practice, I must be your friend. It's going to be one of those in the business books. When you give 5 steps to becoming successful, they'll be your friend. So thank you for inviting me. I honestly didn't know that I was going to say a few words today, so I think we're all in the same boat here. I would like to say hello to everyone, of course, that's watching us globally. I like being part of these events because they give me an opportunity to just celebrate incredible people. If there's one thing I've been really good at doing in life is recognizing the potential that we have in this world and how we turn that into our reality. I always tell people that I'm this big dreamer, that the first time I tell people what my dream is, they look at you and they're like, she must be mad. And then 5 years later, it becomes a reality and they're like, oh, actually, no, she was right. Why I'm saying this is because I don't think that I could have imagined that a young girl originally from Rwanda and Burundi, who had experienced everything our countries have experienced, who had been a refugee, that one day I'll stand in front of thousands of people and be crowned Miss Canada. And Miss Canada was actually a long time ago. Today, I'm actually even honored to host the title of Mrs. Canada, because I also think that there is this narrative that we've been given about the beauty of a woman and our intelligence and our capability, that's very limited. I think we become even more the more we grow. I'm a mom of 4 wonderful girls, 3 with us, 1 in heaven. You saw my husband here earlier today. And it's this thing that gives us the courage to tell a story in a different way based on our dreams, our vision, our mission to empower and inspire. And I think each one of us, especially when you're becoming an entrepreneur, you have to dream beyond what you've seen already. And then I always tell people, if you want your business to succeed, be a solution in this world. You look at whatever is happening in this world. Business, yes, when we think of business, people think we're going to make money. But money is made when you are a solution, because then people say, I need that. Just the way you were talking about your bananas. Someone today said, oh yeah, I would like to have those bananas. It's probably been 10 years that I haven't had those bananas from home. So I always think we become a solution in this world, and that's where we tap into our purpose. So my mission here, when even though everybody is always so quick to, you know, I think the first title I get is Miss Canada, and then when I'm home, it's mom, and then to my husband, it's wife. But I always think, who is Solange, right? And Solange is this 11-year-old girl that made a commitment to making this world a better place. Though I didn't know how that would come to fruition, I stood there with 2 dresses in the middle of a refugee camp, and I knew that one day I will stand in front of thousands of people, and I will tell them how we become the better humans that are making an impact in this world. That has come to fruition through so many things. And today, when I stand in front of you, of course, holding those titles of Miss Canada, Mrs. Canada, but also being a UNICEF Canada ambassador, having helped raise funds for children in more than 190 countries without looking at their cultural background, race, ethnicity, all people, then I say, I'm so glad I listened to that dream. So I think to each and every one of us, we always tap into, why am I here? Why am I here in this world? It's not to eat food, relax, and have a good life. Yes, all those things. But we're here for a mission, and I think when each and every one of us is asking ourselves, what is my mission? Maybe it's construction, maybe it's import, maybe it's export, maybe it's coffee, whatever that is. When we tap into it, we are incredible human beings. And I do love the fact that we're talking about East Africa, because I think this idea that we're divided is a narrative that's being given, but united is our narrative. We look at all African people from all backgrounds and who look different from us, who celebrate, who speak different languages, and we celebrate us and what we bring to the table in this world for our people, for the world, for all people, and that's why we make an impact. So I am so grateful to have been here, to have heard incredible women, and I do love Empower Her, because if you're not empowering women, you are missing out on the success of your community, your country, and the world. Women will move mountains. We're able to feed kids while we are thinking about how we're going to make things work at work. We multitask, we nurture, just like our men are so powerful in protecting and knowing what we need and knowing how to help guide us in this world when we feel invisible. So I think as a society, we have this ability to unite as all people and just make this world better. So congratulations to you for the incredible work that you're doing. This is the beginning of many, many. I look forward to celebrating you when you bring the entire East Africa together, when you're bringing all African people together. I think it's a mission that you have, and don't make it smaller, only make it bigger. And we're just going to be right here behind you, celebrating you as Unite, all African people who are making incredible things around this world.
Thank you so much, Solange. Before you leave, I just wanted to indulge you in just a little bit of a brief interview. There is always that stage in life where you want to do something and you want to fly, and then you always have the naysayers and people who probably told you you couldn't be Miss Canada at the time when you... Could you tell us how you overcame objection in that case, and how can you stay on message and follow your dream and be able to get to the finishing line? What are some of the things that along the way have carried you through that experience?
You know what? I think a dream is a selfish journey that is supported by a village. And let me work with you here for a second. When you have a dream, it's specifically something that you vividly saw in your mind and that speaks to your heart. Only you understand what that thing is specifically. So no matter who says what, copies it, tries it, it's not their dream, it's your dream. And when it's so vivid within you, no one else can say it's wrong, because it's right in your mind and in your heart. So you become selfish by protecting it. You must protect it. I always say a dream is like giving birth to a child. It's your child. No one else can come and say, this is not your child. Because you know in your heart, this is my child. I will nurture them, I will protect them, I will give them everything in between. People will come and either support me in raising this child, and those who are there to harm this child, I will put them aside because I need to protect this child until they grow, they thrive, and they succeed. That is your mission. So my child, I am selfish. I will say it's my child. My dream is the same thing. If someone came to harm your child, what do you say? You do not belong here. Same thing as your dream. When someone comes and say, your bananas will not make it to Canada, you say, you're not my person. Who's next? And I've always seen it that way. A door will close, and every time a door has closed, I always say, thank you, God. That was the wrong door. Thank you for protecting me from that door. What bigger door do you have now? Then I started looking, and I've never taken a step back to say, I remember when people said, you're gonna be Miss Canada? Nobody has been a Miss Canada who looks like you, and this is in 2005. But I also remember just saying, it's very vivid within me, so I'm gonna go for it. And the first time when I competed at Miss Canada, I was first runner-up, and people said, some people laughed and they said, we knew she couldn't make it. But the next year when I went, I didn't look for people to tell me that you can make it real. You don't need that validation. Once you realize that this dream is given to you by God and the universe is on your side, things work out for you. But if you're looking for people to validate that, they won't. We're all broken people because of how society makes us feel. So hesitation comes first, not because they're bad people, because sometimes the world wounds us in ways that we don't know. So we tend to hesitate on what is real. You make it real for them. Every time I go, even now, as I get ready to go to Mrs. World, I know who I'm bringing with me. It's the millions, there's 130 million young girls who are sitting in refugee camps and who are sitting in poverty, who are wondering, will I be someone one day? And when I step on that stage and they see me and I'm smiling with so much pride, my selfish dream becomes their hope and inspiration that they can also have selfish dreams. So I think when you look at your dream and you protect it like you protect your own child, a village will come and protect that dream with you, by your side, alongside you, and together everyone will benefit and succeed. I never think that when I succeed, you succeed. And it's that energy, and you have to protect that energy at all times. So when people say, come and say, you don't dislike them, you love them from afar because they don't see it yet. And your love and your beautiful energy and your powerful way of working hard will be an inspiration to them, and you will bring them along.
My last and final question, that is very powerful, has to do with how do you, and how have you navigated the federal government sort of, I won't call it politics, but in terms of we as Africans and minorities, sometimes we are treated to, we are pushed in a certain corner. When I came to the event that you held at the Women's Day event, Black History Month, that place, Parliament was full of very powerful parliamentarians, politicians, and civic leaders. And also, like you had the RBC, I believe she was the chief financial officer of Royal Bank of Canada. How do you manage to work through the corporate, sort of, I won't call it discrimination, but as a minority or as a woman of color, just to navigate those boardrooms, how are we able to do it? And again, because this is a business event, I just want us to pick out a leaf of how you've been able to succeed in those spaces.
So I will say this, I think that we have this narrative of always siding with a history that's been given to us, a way of doing things that's been given to us, especially within our culture. You inherit these things right from birth. and you either associate with a specific religion, a specific way of seeing things, a specific way of praying, a specific way of doing business, it's great if it works and it brings you peace in your heart, but you also have to understand it's a practice. A practice means many people can practice different ways and obtain the same result. So your way is just your way and it works for you. But there are also many other ways that will work for all other people and work together that way. So what I learned that is, first and foremost, we're all human beings. What do we want? Love, respect, and belonging. That's it. Don't make me feel like I don't belong here. Give me love and respect me the same way I respect you. And when those things are in question, then we have a conversation that we need to have. So whenever I've approached leaders for me, I've approached them on how they are as human beings, always. Not how much money they have, not how powerful they are, not how influential they are. Are you a good human being? That's my law. Everybody else has a different approach, but that's always my law. So when I approach a politician, I don't look first, are they liberal, conservative, Green Party, or NDP? I honestly don't. Are they a good human being who want greatness for their community and good people? Then I invite them to the table because despite where they lay, they're good people. So if we start approaching it with good people first, and all these other systems in society that says you're this or you're that or you're that or you orient towards this way, then you're missing out on really great people based on society's labels. So I think if we remove labeling and we're looking at people for who they are as human beings, then you have a greater chance of being very successful. In terms of discrimination, that's not going away anytime soon. And that took me a really long time because it's really, really hard. When I think about myself, and I share this all the time, I'm at the bottom of the most privileged people. What does that mean? It means that I have an opportunity, I have a voice, I have an opportunity to influence, I can raise so many funds for some of the most privileged, but I can also sit at the table with some of the most quote-unquote successful people. But within that, I'm at the bottom. I am a Black immigrant woman who's young, sometimes questioned why I'm trying to change gender diversity in leadership and advance women in senior leadership positions. In some places, I am married, I have children. Can I do my role if I'm a mother? How does my husband feel about you as a woman being Mrs. Canada? There are all these things that I can really, really drill on. But at the end of the day, when you look at it, I am a human being who's looking to do great things in this world. So at this bottom of the privileged people, I can choose to be mad and think about all these things that I don't get, or I can use it as an opportunity to showcase what we're capable of, to bring someone else along with me. You know, the event you came on Parliament, normally I host it for International Women's Day, for all women. But I also thought, as someone who has an opportunity and a privilege to actually host events on Parliament, why don't we celebrate Black women's leadership? And there we were, a room of 600 people on Parliament Hill, and we're celebrating the incredible accomplishment that Black Canadian women have brought here. So when you have an opportunity, no matter where you are, you have an opportunity to bring more people along the way. So now, and we all have a voice. So discrimination will happen, but you have to know, are they God? No. So that door that's meant for you will never be taken away from you. And you just follow that. And you consistently learning that those who may see you differently, give you bias or racism, are not for you. So for that, you look for those that are with you and for you. And amongst all those leaders and all those corporations, there will always be, even all you need is one that says, I see you, I see your vision, and I will walk with you. Focus on those that are for you, and those that are not for you, that's fine. We don't have to be loved and liked by each and every one. We just have to love us.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Solange, Miss and then Mrs. Canada. So those were two separate roles. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate everything you've said. Please. Thank you so much. She's going to be speaking to us at the dinner tomorrow, and that's just a test, a teaser, because she came in because she's also going to be part of the Canada Day festivities at Parliament Avenue. So when we spoke this morning, I said, can you come? She said, I will come for you. I'll be there at the business breakfast. So that is something that I'm really glad that she could make the time with the family to join us. Again, if you've just joined us, special recognition in a very special way. We'd like to thank all those who are joining us wherever you're watching from. My name is Ronnie Mayanja. I'm the coordinator of this event that takes place in Canada. We are in our 6th year. We started in Vancouver, Canada, like I did mention earlier on, working with the gentleman called Justice Mirembe. We formed and started out in Vancouver, and the idea was to have a day where Ugandans could celebrate, their existence here in Canada. So we are fully registered, and we basically hold this every year. We went from Vancouver to Toronto, held a couple of those in there, and then moved up here to Ottawa. Again, I work with a team of very able people. I know that they're also watching in Uganda. Thank you so much, Shadrach Olinga, who is our country director in Uganda. Thank you so much, Mr. Bedford Buyungo, who puts up very amazing work. If you were to look at the magazine that you guys are holding, there is a man who has believed in me from day one and makes all that happen. Thank you so much, Bedford. And then we have Mr. Michael Kitata, who does all our graphics. And then Capta Collins, who does all our social media campaigns. Thank you so much, Bettina, who also has joined the team to help us move as far as the social media is concerned. And then all the other people that I work with, Mr. Kalunji, who does all our sound engineering here. He's definitely stood with us from day one. And then we have Mr. Alan Watson, Diaspora Television, that has always supported everything we do. Again, we recognize and respect everything you guys do. I don't take your coming all the way from Boston and all the other places for granted. Thank you for supporting us. And then within the community here, we have people like Mr. Jimmy Sabulime, who has been a very big support system to some of the things we do, and we'll give him a chance to say something later about the projects that he does here. So we celebrate each one of you in a special way. And in a special way, I would love to recognize my Madame Janet, if you can stand up and wave. She's been a very big support system to me. Thank you so much, and she will be at the dinner tomorrow with my kids, and we'll have an opportunity for you guys to see all of them, the people who I call behind, every successful person. There is always someone who holds you up to be what you are. So the idea is this is a business breakfast, but also we wanted it to be a networking breakfast. We wanted to do something different. Prima, I wanted to invite your husband to just come and tell us, as someone who is, I would call Afro-Caribbean or whatever you want to call. Why don't you come and tell us what has been your experience? What can we do differently? Or what has been your experience? One, going to Uganda, and two, being married to someone who is exporting product from Uganda. What can we change? Sometimes we want to hear that what I call hard talk, because we are so caught up in our cultural, I don't know even how to call them. Just come and tell us as a businessman, what can we do differently? What can we change? And probably, what are some of the things that our government officials might be watching can change? Because you've invested a lot of money in exporting product from Uganda to here. Tell us what your story is and what we can learn from that, and what can we change?
Okay, thank you very much, Ronnie. Well, where to start? I kind of got introduced to Uganda, I guess, in 2016, when I met my now wife, Susan Prima. I think one of the things where we need to start with, first of all, is educating not just in terms of for Ugandans, but actually our education systems here in North America. I grew up here in Canada. I went through school all throughout here in Canada. Never really learned anything about Uganda. Never heard about Uganda. And nothing positive anyways about Uganda or Africa as a whole. The things that I heard about was, and it's been mentioned before, you certainly heard about Idi Amin. We've heard about the Kony rebels, but nothing beautiful or anything about what goes on in Uganda. So imagine if here within Canada, and not even here, not that far here in Ottawa, if we took our cameras and we went down by the Union Missions. There's a lot of homeless people out on the streets. If that's what we captured and broadcast that right across the world, then here too people would think, oh geez, I don't want to go visit Ottawa. Like there's a lot of homeless people, a lot of people on the streets. But that's not what they show. But yet they're quick to show the negative that goes on in Africa and leave out all the beauty. So when I first went to, or was preparing to go to Uganda, I had a lot of people come up to me like, do you know what you're doing, Michael, do you know what you're doing? Like, are you sure you should go to Uganda? I don't think it's safe. And the reality is there's more even throughout North America, there's a lot more gun violence and all that goes on. But again, you don't hear about that. But yet, in Uganda, they want to magnify the little negatives or throughout Africa, but they don't hype up the beauty. So when I went down there, and I'm not one who listens to other people, I like to witness things for myself, I went down to Uganda and I was blown away. It's like, this is truly a beautiful country. So I think what we need to do is, first of all, we need to try to tear down these negative narratives about Africa, Uganda specifically, and start to promote the beauty that lies within. So for me, I was a public servant for over 20 years. I left that. I'm also a businessman. I'm a co-owner of Africa Haven. I'm also a co-owner of a group that I have called Blacks Inspire, where we're trying to uplift and try to dispel these myths and the negative narrative surrounding blacks, and try to show more positive imagery around the things that black people do and all of our achievements. So in terms of the barriers and some of the things that governments can do, I mean, government's doing a lot in terms of trying to invest a lot of dollars. However, again, a lot of these things are only offered to limited people who know how to work the system. So they could be a little bit more opening. Governments and the banks, in terms of funding, I deal with a lot of businesses, and it's a reoccurring theme about how to get funds. And that's one of the major challenges for people within our community, is accessing those funds. The banks will say they make the funds available, but when you actually dig deeper to see how many people have actually been offered the money and benefit from the money, it ends up being a very small percentage. Yesterday we also heard talks from about the travel. While the numbers may seem impressive, I think there's a lot more that could be done. If I looked at Susan's presentation, there was talks of 16,000 people from North America that I think arrived within Uganda. So while the numbers may look good to them, the reality is, in my opinion, as a business person, I see great opportunity. We're talking about roughly 380 million people within North America. Those numbers should be, at a minimum, doubled, if not 10x'd. And it all comes down to promotion. If we highlight the beauty that there is within Uganda, compare it to other countries like Cuba, which for the longest while, even Americans weren't going, but they still have larger numbers in terms of people that travel there. There's absolutely no reason why Uganda cannot become a prime tourist and travel destination. And I think, again, if we put some efforts within that, that could be achieved rather easily. I don't know if there's much more you want me to talk about, Ronnie, but...
What culturally, what has been your experience? What can we change and do differently when it comes to even business, or what I would call the art of doing business? Because sometimes one of the things, I'll give you one, we're always late. So you'll postpone a program just because you want to catch up with, people who say, oh, I don't want to be the first one there. Or, what are some of the lessons we can be able to pick up from the other communities and be able to, make up for it?
Yeah, so first of all, I think what we need to have is an open mind, for one. We need to try and drown out also a lot of the negativity. We have to also have a set goal in mind and then just go for it. In terms of, sorry, you said challenges that we have. Yeah. So some of the challenges, again, I think I touched on it, is access to capital, access to funds. A lot of us want to do work, but there's the challenge of getting access to the resources that are available. I think one of the things that we need to also do is start working together as a community. Again, it's key. If you look at a lot of other communities, and it's often said about within our community about crabs in the bucket, crabs in a barrel. This idea or this notion that only one of us could succeed rather than the masses. I think we got to stop trying to be so negative towards each other as well. We need to work together and realize that there's plenty. There's really an abundance out there for all of us. So I think once we get past this notion that only one person or a small group of people could succeed, and we decide to actually start working together, networking together, events like this, bringing us together. Again, we don't need to be many. We don't need to have a room full of 1,000 people. It's those few key networking opportunities and connecting with the right people, the few people and the few connections that we can make within this room. And we just we build common ground and we move towards a common goal. And I think, again, over time, when you have those people talking these negative things, just try to mute that and say, okay, you know what? You might not be with me now. I know you'll come back later, and that's okay, because not everybody's going to buy in right away. But the reality is you take those few who are willing to hold hands with you, and you move forward, and just keep moving forward. And that's the thing. The people who tend to succeed are those who don't give up. The real losers are those who say, you know what, this person doesn't like me, so I'm going to stop. But in every aspect that I've seen, and it doesn't even have to be the brightest person, but that person who's committed and just keeps moving forward, eventually you get to where you need to go. That's just how it works. You just have to keep moving forward, and that's what I think the goal is.
Thank you so much. I'm actually going to invite the gentleman from Alliance. He just peeped. The gentleman on the outside, if someone can grab him for me, I would appreciate, who is at the desk. But Mr. Jimmy, you're local here. I would like for you to come and greet our global audience and basically tell us what you've been able to do. We appreciate, ladies and gentlemen, I was introduced to Mr. Jimmy Sebulime by Mr. Moses Mawa of Afro Global Television. And one of the things that was during the campaign when we were trying to raise money for the oxygen concentrators that we sent over to Uganda. I just wanted you to say something regarding the work you do, the challenges you've had, but we're going to keep it to that just because of the interest of time, just to tell us how can people support your foundation and what are some of the things you've been able to learn. And then, we will continue from there. This is just being broadcast live, so I just want to make sure that we promote your business as someone who is based in Ottawa. You need to stay right here because the TV is right in front of you. And then, yeah, tell us, what do you want the people to know about the work you do?
All right. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you for making me part of this. And good afternoon, Susan. Good afternoon, everyone. I don't like TV too much because I speak from the heart, and I don't know how to hide my feelings. So I'm glad. Even the lights went out, so they're back on. But like everybody else, I didn't expect to speak, but here I am. So I will just speak to you briefly. I won't be long at all. But my name is Jimmy. I was born and raised in Uganda, and I'm a proud African. I've been here 30 years. And if anybody should not go back to Uganda, it is me, because I had a tragic accident there. But I am determined to carry on, because life is very short. My success stories are many, and you're going to see them right about now. But I wanted to say that I'll never bash any black person doing something in North America. And we need to stop that as Ugandans and as Africans, because when you do well, Susan, I do well. And Susan is doing well with her food. She has a new van, and guess where she brings her food? My house. When you do well, Ronnie, I invite you to my fundraiser and you pay for a ticket. And so we need to look after, we need to look out for one another. And the other thing is we have to be realistic. You want more people here. People are well read in North America. We know what is happening. So we're talking about terrorism, and no one in this room has taken more Canadians than me to Uganda. Maybe Susan could speak to that. Maybe 600 have gone to Uganda, and out of 600, about 580 love our country for the beauty of it, the culture, the food, the weather, the extraordinary people that we have in Uganda and East Africa and Africa in general is extraordinary. But we also must face reality. I was just doing a medical camp in Uganda 2 months ago in Nkozi Hospital. It is so bad to the point where a young mother, 22 years old, lost her baby. And the grandmother comes in with a suitcase, and I'm watching the whole show. You know what the suitcase was for? To carry the dead body back so they don't get charged in the taxi. That's the reality, and I've seen that. So you want people to go to Uganda, and they will go. But there is an obligation to the Ugandan government to do a few little things, and don't call me negative, but you gotta fix healthcare, education, and infrastructure. We Canadians are spoiled. We're used to basic little things in life, you know, water, electricity, and a functioning road. And I may get myself in trouble, so I'll stop there. But I have a Boys and Girls Club. It is called the Agnes Abayi Boys and Girls Club in Uganda. Susan knows it. And Susan, we have to talk because we have a women's house. And it is true, when a woman is empowered, I stand here because of the women that raised me. I have no father, and I'm very proud of that, because my women, God rest them in peace, that did their job. And that's why I stand here. But the Boys and Girls Club is basically an after-school program where kids, we have over 200 members, they come and play, and within that, they learn about, you know, life lessons. I'm so proud we have about 46 kids that have gotten scholarship, not to go anywhere special, but to leave the village and study for free. We have had 56 graduates, and the tragedy of my graduates, I think 12 of them are ended up in the Middle East. And that is a tragedy you guys know well. And it keeps going. These planes are living in Entebbe Airport. I better be quiet, but my Boys and Girls Club is there. And every year I take Canadian doctors and nurses to Uganda to do a medical camp. And we were just there 2 months ago, and we saw over 3,600 people. We did 46 surgeries, all for free. And the Canadians that go there pay for this health care. And every Canadian that goes there with me takes a suitcase of shoes for me, for my Boys and Girls Club. We are that low that we're still walking barefoot in my village. I'm not joking to you. But my success story, I stand here, I'm so empowered. I was in the coma in Uganda in 2012. I should not be alive. But I'm alive because of the young people that buried my mother and woke me up. And the amazing thing is, 4 of them are in this room. So if you bear with me, I'd like my brother Peter to come up here, my friend Mito to come up here, my friend Brian and Dale to come up and stand beside me, because this is my inspiration. Young Ugandans who had no business, some of them, to be here, and they're here. And so I'll just give you a quick introduction.
Just pause, and I know you're talking fast. Ladies and gentlemen, I do write, and in one of the publications that I did interview Mr. Jimmy Sebulime, and I got to know the story that Jimmy was on a trip with the mother in Uganda, and they were involved. The mom died in a fatal accident. A truck rammed into them. The mom died instantly. Jimmy was literally thrown out of the car, went into a coma, had to undergo so many surgeries. I'm just putting it into perspective because it's speaking a little bit too fast. And what it's telling us, ladies and gentlemen, is that some of the people who got him out and woke him up during that accident, where the mom perished, some of them were able to make it to the States. But continue the story. But I need you to be centered because the TV is right there.
Really, I am a walking miracle, and really, I'm in no man's land because to Ugandans, he speaks with an accent. He's not one of us. But then to the Muzungus, Jimmy, where are you from? I said, I'm Canadian. I'm like, no, really. Where are you? Until I say I'm from Uganda. And so I'm in no man's land. Pardon me the way I speak. It's how I am. And I do speak Luganda and Jogero Luganda, but once I get passionate, Kakati, Peter is my brother. I'm not responsible for bringing Peter here, but he was there for me on that fateful day. And I love this guy. And Moses, Peter takes pictures in Ottawa. He's extraordinary. He's a young man building his life. You want to take pictures for your events. Maybe I'm biased, but you can't find a better guy than Peter. He's the best. And again, I'm biased. He's also a young Ugandan determined to carry on. Then I have Mito. Mito has been here. I didn't bring him his mother. She's in Uganda. She's like, there's Mito, look after him. And I get Mito and he's slow, and I don't know why Mito still talks to me. I was so hard on Mito. But you know what he did the other day on Father's Day after 10 years? He called me at 6 in the morning. He's like, I'm coming over. I said, I'm not home. I'll wait for you until you get home. Mito bought me a Father's Day card. And I was blown away by this young man. And if you need a writer, Mito is a very good writer, African as he is. He's an extraordinary young man. And I'm so proud of Mito, who he's become. He was slow in the beginning, but he's so fast. I can't believe we're still friends because I was hard on him and Mito. And now, if you want to come to the show tomorrow, the most talented person I've ever seen in far as African culture and drumming and performing is Dale and Brian. They are amazing. Also the hardest worker, this is Dale. Dale is an unbelievable young man. He waited for me at the Boys and Girls Club every single day trying to get in the club. I said, get rid of that guy. He wouldn't leave. Dale has no business being in Canada, but he's here and he's going to perform for you, African unapologetic. And Dale's friend is Brian. Brian, during COVID, was traveling from Kampala to Kamengo every day. So skinny. He couldn't get there, but he got there, and I didn't have a bag of rice. But he was determined. Long did I know he's one of the most talented drummers and performers as far as East Africans. He does Swahili, Luganda, and various plays. They're going to be playing drumming. These guys, during COVID, every day they will call me, I'm going to the Middle East. Well, they were able to take the plane to Canada, and I am so happy. This is my source of strength. I'm sorry to call you guys out like that, but without you guys, I'm nobody. And during the accident, they camped for outside of the hospital. Who am I? But these were my guys, I think 12 years ago, and they're here now. So thank you for giving me this chance. I appreciate it very much, and I appreciate all of you. We're together. When you're successful, I'm successful. I found you here, so good job. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause. Jimmy Sebolime, thank you so much. He's one of the pillars in this community. I got an RSVP from Father Martin. Father Martin being one of the parish priests here, he was with us at the Destination Uganda event. We had a very powerful event here, and it's going to be continuing in Toronto, courtesy of Mr. Moses Mawa, who we're going to be partnering with to execute that, alongside the Association of Canadian Travel Agents, and then CATO, which is the Canadian Association of Tour Operators. We hope that as many as can be able to log in and be a part of that event. It's going to be taking place on July 6th, which is a Thursday at the Courtyard Marriott in Toronto. So please be sure to tune in. We'll be joined by the Deputy Board Chairperson of Uganda Tourism Board, who happens to be Madam Susan Muhwezi. So this is really to promote Uganda, to help jumpstart tourism, but that was very powerful, Jimmy. The gentleman from the insurance company, I just want to give you a chance. We are broadcasting live. I just want you to speak to the Canadian audience, those who can be able to benefit from your product. If you can come and say something, and then I'll come back to my friend Rhoda to tell us your story of how you were able to start up a business in Uganda, and basically at a young age, what have you been able to achieve? So I have in front of me a gentleman from an insurance firm here, one of the biggest ones in Canada, and he has a couple of things he wants to interest our community in. Normally when we plan these events, they are paid for by people like partners and sponsors, talking of which, allow me to recognize Momo Pay, allow me to recognize Mobile Money in Uganda. We thank BBS Telefina that always partners with us to rebroadcast everything that we do across Uganda and Kampala. I also recognize other partners that have supported us, Housing Finance, Post Bank, in different capacities and different ways to be able to promote and bring to you all these other things that you're able to see. In this particular case, in a special way, we recognize Uganda Tourism Board. They were able to come on board last minute to support the efforts of yesterday that we were doing, and then we also have them in the magazine that you guys have. But we recognize partners and sponsors like you, and we appreciate you. Why don't you briefly, again, standing right here, tell the people why you're here and what are you trying to sell the Ugandan community in Canada?
Thank you, sir, for the honor. And it's an honor to be here this afternoon. And it's an opportunity to meet African people like me. This is a good gathering. My name is Olani Shegun Israel. I'm a financial security advisor for Industrial Alliance. And Industrial Alliance is one of the largest financial institutions in Canada. We have operations all across Canada and also in the United States of America. The head office is in Quebec City. We have agency in Montreal. I work for the Ottawa agency, and that's the reason why we are here. Also, we have agency in Toronto, in University Avenue. We have agency also in Vancouver, a major city in Canada as well. Right now, this industry has over $200 billion assets under management with over 4 million clients. It's a pure Canadian public company, and also we are listed in Toronto Stock Exchange. And the objective of this industry is to assist as many people as possible to reach their financial goals, maybe long-term goals or short-term goals. And that's why we are here to render our service to the Uganda community on how we can assist them. There are ways they can invest, which is tax sheltered. They can plan for their retirement savings plan. And also, we have a registered education service plan for children, in which you can plan towards your children post-secondary education. So going to their university, the cost of university these days is expensive. So if families can contribute a little bit into their children education, the Canadian government will put 20% of their contribution into their account. And also they have the opportunity of getting the Canadian learning bond too. And also we do all kinds of insurance. High Financial Group is one of the largest producers of insurance. Insurance has evolved over time. Many years ago, insurance about their benefits. If you die, then my beneficiary gets something. But these days, insurance is another vehicle of investment. You can invest with your life insurance that gives you cash surrender value, and also protect yourself, protect your family in case of any life event. So it's a very good way of protecting yourself and also having a kind of investment with your life insurance. Also, in terms of life insurance, in terms of insurance per se, there's a way you can give your children a very strong financial foundation. You can give your children very strong financial foundation. Maybe after school, they can access the funds and from their policy, to cater for anything they want to venture into, business and things like that. And also we have child life insurance to protect your child. And also, we are African as an immigrant, we are happy working as part of this network. So we have things that you can use to protect yourself, like disability insurance. In case of anything happens to you as a business owner or as a family, as a worker, you need to pay your bills. So we have a disability insurance in case anything happens to you during the course of your business or work. At least you can access that to pay your bills and things like that. And also we have different kind of investment, GIC. But the major thing is to assist you to reach your financial goals. Thank you. And also we have our table outside. We are offering our gifts so you can participate. You can write your name and phone number. And we do the raffle draw and you can win one of those prizes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you for coming out. Now, as we wrap up, last but not least, brother, you're going to come. This is really for the broadcast. It's not for, I know there were people here who were yesterday as part of, it's just a brief Q&A. What I really wanted to ask you is how you were able to set up, please come to that, how you were able to set up a business of owning a hotel in Uganda at what I thought would have been a very young age and all that. So could you yes, ladies never grow old. Could you tell the audience how you were able to, because we're talking business today, you have a business or a hotel in Uganda, tell people where it's located and what inspired you and how they can book if they're going back on holiday in Uganda.
Hi everybody. I would start by saying thank you for putting this together and for bringing a lot of accomplished, educated, hardworking individuals, about maybe half of whom I have met so far because there's just conversations are so productive that it's actually been difficult to get around to speaking with every single person. But this is definitely quantity over quality over quantity, yeah, for sure, just because of all the different capacities that each and everybody here is in. So to go directly to your question, so I think starting a business is really partnerships, networking. And in partnerships and networking...
Maybe before you get into that,
yeah.
Tell them what you do in Canada.
Sure.
And maybe they will be able to listen to you more attentively. Who are you? What do you do in Canada? And then go into that.
Okay. Context. So here in Canada, I work as an economist with the government. I was so happy to see a Carleton alumni because I went there 20 years ago for 4 years. And I'm also a McMaster University alumni where I did my master's in economics in 2009. So I have been with the government since then, the government of Ontario, provincial government of Ontario, till today. So it's been a journey, a very good learning journey, and I think now that I have been more involved in entrepreneurship ventures over the last 3 to 5 years, it's been nice to see the difference and the value of being a true employee and being a follower and having inspirational leaders, and how that translates itself in terms of who you think about, how you hire them, and how they respond to you as a leader. So it's a same side of two different sides of the same coin, but both experiences are wonderful. So that's the context. So how did I
start the hotel in Uganda?
Exactly. So I was here in Canada. I finished school. My school here was sponsored by my parents, who prioritized that, I guess, over doing a lot of their own things in Uganda. But as soon as my siblings and I, because there were 4 of us, very close in age, my parents were saying, we've given you a start, you're now educated, you're capable of having reasonably productive employment, we will give you a start investing, start bringing the money back, start working with us. You're coming from an entrepreneurial family, we know how to do the business. What you can do, we'll hold the fort down for you in Uganda, you bring the money. And I remember I think with my very first work here in Canada, I think at some point I was saving over 60% of, like my lifestyle here has been so squeezed. And when I look back, I'm like, wow, for 10 years, the only thing I did was go to the movies in actual sense. So this is I was telling Bettina, one of the organizers, how excited I was because this is my first boat cruise ever in 20 years. It's my first Ugandan convention ever in 20 years because I've lived in a bubble of save everything that you can, take it back to Uganda. So there's a level of commitment that I didn't even realize at that time, but it has been like a big, a big commitment. But also, of course, rooted in partnerships because my very first business partner was my own mother, who did the job of purchasing a piece of land, and my siblings and I did the job of actually constructing the hotel. It's a 26-bedroom hotel right opposite the UN base. If you know Entebbe well, it's as soon as you're at the UN base, you're basically at the hotel. It's called Hidden Treasure Serviced Hotel Apartments. And we've been running for 5 years now. And really, it's best for one-day stay of us because Entebbe, by its nature as a city, is where people transit through to go to other places. So we do get a lot of visitors there that are coming on their way to Kampala. As we know, many flights come really late in the night, so you might not want to make that journey to the national park you're going to or whichever district that you're going to. And then same thing on the way back is to pass through Entebbe. So that's really the nature of hotel stays in Entebbe. They are very short, one-day stays. It's very rare. And I think one of the entrepreneurial lessons that we learned was like first we built long-term stays completely, and then we converted all the 3-bedroom apartments to one-room units, to short stays because it's just the more reasonable way for doing business. So that's how I started, but unfortunately I lost my mother 3 years ago. And that has put me in a position of course, making that decision. I cannot possibly fathom full-time staying in government as I am right now, although I still am, and also going to, and also running the business successfully. So this is why I'm here, because it's really representative of my commitment to trying to fully transition without a strong partner in Uganda, to fully transition into going into the business. And I think yesterday I had an opportunity to speak about one of the challenges of running a business in Uganda, and that was connected to personnel. Yes, basically the general human resource, and I'm hesitant to put labels on it. I think it's like there's so much behind it, but you could call it professionalism, you could call it stickability, the ability to see yourself as an employee of a company and see the future with the company. But I think there's something cultural, there's something business-wise going on that maybe people don't feel supported by their own employers sometimes. So there's a culture thing going on there. I think people want to get what they need to get at that particular moment, and the future will take care of themselves, maybe in another position. So one of the biggest challenges that I have faced going through the entrepreneur journey with a business in Uganda is just employing people who have integrity and honesty, but whose heart is tied with the vision of the company, so that we don't train and then people leave, don't train and people leave. But the lesson I've learned is to understand the business environment and accept it and work with it. In as much as it's possible to lend Canadian values and what I've learned out of 12 years in government, some of my siblings who went back earlier than me told me in words, but I didn't understand it. But they kept saying that you're in Uganda and you can apply everything Canadian that you know, but you have to learn how to do business as it's done here. You have to negotiate in a way that might seem to me
dishonest.
Thank you. You have to create deals and partnerships in ways that you sign a check here and then give money here, and like, not everything has to go into the accounting books the way you're used to, because people want commissions, people want a pay here. Just do it and get it done. But I'm like, no, the tax people are going to come after me. Like, these tax people who are going to, we will give you the tax strategy so that they don't come after you. Bring in the money, deal with the rest. So it's very interesting, but I think if you really want to play a successful game, you kind of have to build your networks, know what to do, be conscious of what you're doing, and then carry on. Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Rhoda, we thank you so much.
Thank you.
Definitely, we want to wrap this up again in the interest of time. That was powerful. That was really powerful. You've heard her. That's how she was able to make it. We thank all of those who have been able to tune in today. We appreciate wherever you are and wherever you come from. We would like to encourage you to join us. We have a boat cruise this evening. And then just keep doing what we're doing. Basically, I would like to appreciate in a special way. I don't know whether, Bettina, if you have something you want to say or you're good. But anyhow, I really appreciate everybody who has taken their time out to come out today. I also wanted to appreciate Diaspora Television. If we have our partners still on air, BBS Telefina, thank you so much. Mwebalire nnyo, mwebalire ddala abatulaba yonna gye muli. Amanya n'eddoboozi mbadde Ronnie Mayanja, ndi muzzukulu wa Kakeeto era neddira mutima. Naye ng'ekisingira ddala byonna tubadde ku lukuŋŋaana wano olwa Uganda Canada Business Expo olutudde emitaala w'amayanja wano ku Westin Hotel, Ottawa, Canada, mu province eya Ontario. Era nga twagala obbeebaza mwenna twasobodde okuleeta abantu abasukka abafunye visa abasukka mu 100 e Canada ku mulundi guno, naye nga twagala obbazzaamu amaanyi nti ekirooto kyo bwe kiba tekinnatuuka ekiseera kyakyo kijja kutuuka. So n'olw'ensonga eyo njagala nnyo okwebaza abakulembeze yonna gye bali abatuwagidde era abatukkiririzaamu. It's a labor of love, but tujja kusigala nga tubaweereza yonna gye muli. In wrapping, I just wanted to speak to my Uganda audience on BBS Telefina and Diaspora Television who might be watching us, that this has been the Uganda Canada Business Expo, and this happens every year. We are making a strategy to morph into an East Africa. We've actually registered East Africa Business Council Canada, and that has also got the approval of the Canadian government. So if you see us coming out in a different way, just know that we are serving a wider audience that would include Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, South Sudan, and the Congo, because of the kind of interest we've had and also the discussions I've had with some of my friends like Mr. Moses Mawa, Susan Namulindwa, those who are working things out at that level of doing business across Africa, globally, and then taking it to another level. For me, this has been a very informative session. I've learned a lot from people like Rhoda. I believe in empowerment. I believe in promoting. If you see hidden treasures next or opposite to the UN base in Entebbe, go and support her. If you happen to be a Ugandan in Canada, mulina munnammwe yazimba woteeri eri opposite UN base ku Entebbe, mugende mumuwagire. I believe that if we support our own, instead of going to support all these other businesses that are out there, then we're not doing ourselves a service. I also want to, in a special way, thank all our partners. You've heard the gentleman who spoke, Fakrudin Properties, Mr. Hedri in Uganda, thank you for the support. I would like to thank Uganda Airlines. I would like to thank, they're actually working on launching direct flights to Canada using their Airbus. I would like to thank Uganda Tourism Board. Ladies and gentlemen, Uganda Tourism Board is launching Destination Uganda, and they will be having another roadshow coming up in Toronto this Thursday, July 6th at the Courtyard Marriott, the world's largest Courtyard Marriott. So let's support everybody who actually is doing something to promote our country. We are not political. We are about promoting Uganda and the good causes that make our country proud. We will support the likes of Susan Prima here. She's one of the largest importers of fresh produce from Uganda. And let's have the Government Export Promotion Board, AGOA, and all these other institutions support our very own. So with that, if you're watching and you're in Canada and you're in Ottawa, please join us for the boat cruise at 6 in the evening. We shall be also having an after party at the Palace nightclub for those who can. And then tomorrow we have dinner taking place over at the, here at the Marriott, at the Westin Ottawa, and that will be held at the ballroom starting 7. Miss Canada or Mrs. Canada, as you heard us speak, will also be joining us for that. So if you're in Canada and you know that there is someone who needs to be part of this 3-course menu, entertainment, dinner, we've had DJs who have flown in all the way from Washington, D.C. to come and entertain you, all that will be part of the menu. With those many of your remarks, I would like to thank you for watching, for viewing. Alan Watson, you're always the best, always on point. Kalunji, our sound engineer, for all the equipment and the sound. And then to everybody who trekked and came here, we thank you. And we hope to see you today at the boat cruise and then tomorrow at the dinner. Thank you, Bettina. Thank you, Shadrach. Thank you, Bedford. Thank you, Capta. Thank you, Michael. These are part of the unseen heroes or unsung heroes behind the scenes that you guys never get to see. And then, of course, my own family and kids. I would like to thank Janet for always being there and supporting me. And yes, we will be introducing them formally at the dinner tomorrow. Mwami Issa, tubadde tumaliriza naye tewatubuuzizaako naye nkyandowooza ojja tubuulira. We have some testimonials of people who have come through this convention, both this year and in the past, who will be speaking to us at the dinner tomorrow. And like I said, more than 100 of them came through this event using visas that were issued by the Canadian government for this event. Thank you so much, and with that, I would like to sign out, and I wish you all a wonderful Canada Day weekend. Thank you, and God bless you. Bye.
This is Diaspora TV, your #1 global network.
Yo TV channels app kateli big and better. Anti app nyamwemu otuke munsi y'okunyumirwa. Selecting Yo TV channels or streaming live radio net TV. Oba Kibanda Express katandike butandisi nga bw'onyumirwa ebinna Uganda. Ate ku Bolingo Extra supporting music wa Uganda ne comedy. Kyokka ku muto abaana kuyiga olw'akatuni ow'omulembe abaako ate ng'ayigiriza. Downloading app ya Yo TV channels leero.
This is Diaspora TV, your #1 global network.